Hey everyone, Anthony here. Welcome to the channel and also welcome to Thrift Flip Terrariums. Yes, you heard that correctly. In this series, we're turning secondhand glassware into stunning, budget-friendly terrariums using only thrift stored finds, locally sourced wood, decorative rocks, moss, and even native plants from a nature walks. So if you love DIY, upcycling, and bringing greenery into your space without breaking the bank, you're in the right place. Each episode, I'll take a thrift store treasure, maybe a vase, a jar, or something totally unexpected, and transform it into a living, breathing ecosystem. Plus, I'll share expert tips on plant care, terrarium design, and how to source materials for next to nothing. So if you're ready to turn old glass into a fresh green space, then hit that subscribe button and let's get started with today's build. Hi everyone, Anthony here. This one we're jumping right into. The tape shows that I've just put a glass front on the bottom of it. I also installed a LED full spectrum plant light, and now we're looking at the makings of the fountain. That's a, you're gonna laugh. That is a styrofoam cup you see sitting on the left. And if you're in the United States, we have a restaurant called Whataburger. That's the base of a Whataburger for those of you who know Whataburger. And not only did I use it for the base, the top rim of a large Whataburger cup, I'm using as a planting ring that's going to be installed around it. Now, okay, that's the funny part because I do love Whataburger. The finial, you're sitting to the left of the screen, is off of the first in the Flip series, the Red Lamp. So when I took the lamp apart and I had that piece, I thought, wow, that would make a great top to a fountain. And it didn't take me long to use it. So this build was 4 days long. About drove me crazy because it was much more challenging than I thought in theory it should have been. It should have been really straightforward. So here I'm taking my Whataburger cup pieces and I'm gluing on tiny pebbles and then bark shavings because I want to give this the look that it's actually a rock foundation and an iron fountain that's going to be installed. And I envision this in my head as you're looking at a little spot where we're in a park. And this park has a fountain and it's got the base ring around it. It's got plantings around it. And then you've got what would be the normal lawn and trees. Now, speaking of trees, while I'm sitting here wiring in the light and the fountain, I built my own trees. So I found these little twigs and made them look as normal as possible and then glued them to rock bases. So when we get to the part where I'm putting in the trees, you'll see they've got rocks attached to them which keep them upright, but you can remove them for maintenance, which is something I think is fantastic about this build, because even though it's wide, by the time I get that fountain in there, it takes up all the room. And to pull off my look that I really wanted, I really needed the miniature trees in there to give it the look like, okay, these are either like small trees around the fountain or the fountain is incredibly large and these are regular sized trees. I kind of like the fact that it's regular sized trees. So here I am. I've drilled 2 holes in the base. One's for the light and one's for the fountain. And when we get to the one for the fountain, I am putting a inline switch on it. It's something I did not do for the other build in the series where I turned the other candle lantern that has the slate rock glued to the back of it. So I bought a 2-for-1 pack so I could put a switch on the other candle lantern as well. Now this one, the silicone caulking on this one was rather challenging. Not what I'm doing right here, but getting it waterproof. Not once, but twice I missed getting a spot of caulking where it needed to go, and I had 2 massive water leaks. Now the first problem I'm having here is the fact that the pump will not stay in place with the suction cups that come with it. So I have decided I'm going to attach it permanently. Now, when I put my Whataburger cup on top of it, I just thought, okay, I'm going to seal around the whole thing, and then that way it'll be, the water will go. My intention was is the water goes right back into the cup, which is what is happening. Now, it took me more than a day to get water to come out slowly enough to make this really work, because water can't go all over the place, because the reservoir is really the cup itself. And so there's little slits that I left available to where water will flow down the finial back into the cup, and then the ring that's around it that you see right now, I'm putting soil around the ring here. And I found in nature, I did a nature walk the day I was building this. I found this new little short grass, and I thought it was growing by the moss that you're going to see in a few minutes. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be incredible if I can have enough space in the ring? Now, it's not that much bigger than the fountain base or the Waterbury cup base, but at this point, it's covered in stone, so you just now know it is a concrete fountain base. Um, but yes, I did have enough. All right, so now I'm putting in the thinnest layer of rock I can. I originally wanted to plant this with small little plants in there, but because I could not find a better way to fit the fountain in and to make it look realistic, I didn't want to build it up any higher, because I thought, okay, it's already the centerpiece and it's already kind of tight. Okay, now here's my trees. So laugh if you want at my trees. I think they're cool. And I really think this scene looks like, kind of in my head, it's a pre-spring uh, pic that you're looking at right now. That you're looking at pre-spring. So therefore, my trees do not have flowers or leaves or anything on them, because we are coming out of winter. But we do have greenery on the ground that could be like a winter grass, even though we all know it's moss. And then the greenery around the fountain itself. That's just something that is going to probably flower later on, like an iris or something like that, that stays green all year. So there's my behind the scenes explanation for what plantings I'm going in. Okay, this part was challenging because the fountain base is so freaking big and I could not get my hands all the way around it. So I'm just blindly kind of feeling with my fingers where I can put the grass. And fortunately, I only took two little things of grass, and I didn't even have anything to dig them up with. I pulled them up. So I'm really hoping that they will grow, or at least they will stay to grow. If they won't, I'll just put moss or something inside there, because it really needs that barrier, because you can see that it needs it to break up the dark colors of the rocks that I put in there. And I use rocks, and I use some, not this twig, a branch you're looking at, but something similar, some rotting wood in nature that I keep in a bag. And so it's really easy to crumble up. Now, I found two types, well, it's actually three types of moss. I found this kind that mounds itself. To me, it's like a button moss, but I know it's not a button moss. It mounds itself. And every time I find it, and now remember, I'm in north central Texas where it's really dry in the summertime. But when I find this stuff, it's always growing on rock. It does not, it has its own soil attached to it that it keeps with it, but it mounds around it, and then it forms whatever it forms because it's growing between rocks. So that's why I'm putting it on the rocks, because I'm hoping that it will sustain its growth. I'm really trying to keep it off of the little bit of soil I put in there, because it's just for around the rocks. So I'm using this moss, and then my regular moss that we have in Texas, the smaller kinds, a darker color, I'm putting it between them. And then I'm going to use the rocks, the small rocks, to kind of mimic in nature what this mounding moss can do, because it literally, wherever you see it, whatever shape of that rock is, it just curves to the shape of that rock, and I think it looks really kind of cool. It doesn't stay well in my growth chambers because they're under a really humid condition. So I know it likes something drier. It will like this terrarium because this terrarium has 4 holes that I didn't close up on the top. And that would be for venting for the candle that would normally be in here. But I'm hoping that this will do really well. I didn't spray it down hardly at all. I did soak all the moss in water for like 20 minutes. So the moss itself is wet. It'll have the ability to dry out because you can see I did not spray my soil that I was putting in just for that reason. I want this to be a condition that's better for it. And the little grass that's planted is growing right with it with rock. So I'm hoping that they'll both just do really, really well inside this enclosure there. That one piece I just put down, that's the only one that's not sitting on a rock. And I wanted it right at the front, almost to make it look like if you were walking in the park, there would be a place you could walk straight up to the fountain and admire the fountain without having to, squeeze through the trees that are there. So that's why I put one piece right there. And for another reason, I'm not going to put a tree right in front because I'd have to pull it out if I wanted to do any maintenance. Now that is the one thing I like about this build. I can pull those trees out and move things around, so I don't have to worry about that. The only thing that's stationary is the fountain. It's there and it's stuck there because it's glued into place. But the trees, yeah, those can come out easily. I was really lucky because I was thinking that when I was putting the moss in there, I was like, okay, well, this is really kind of too much greenery. I need to break it up a little bit. And while I was sitting there thinking about this, you can see in the background, I've got my strainer, both my strainers there. And one of them had the leftover rocks I didn't use for the fountain. I thought, oh, well, let's just put some rocks in there and that'll work. So it's worked out really, really easy. But the challenging part was having to redo the fountain over and over and over because I kept finding a leak and then another leak. And then there's hours went by that you don't see on video of me trying to determine it. The pump comes with its own tubing, and the tubing is too large. It on the lowest setting, that pump was shooting water up to the top of the lantern, and I had to keep coming up with ways to slow the water down. I tried with putting sponge in, then that didn't work. I tried putting a tube inside a tube, that didn't work. I mean, I just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until finally I took some of my weed cloth, which is what I use for the barrier between the rock and my substrate for my growing chambers and then my regular terrariums. I just cut some up, shoved it into the hose, and that seemed to be the trick. And so all I had to do was keep editing down the size of the fabric, and that's when it came to life. And it just was enough to where it trickles over. I wish it could trickle a little bit more, but my Whataburger cup base is exactly the same size as the finial, actually, that it is. So the water has to go really, really slow to make sure it doesn't, fall outside of it and get everything too wet. So that's the whole reasoning behind that. So now I'm thinking I'm done. Okay, let's clean up. No, I remembered I had picked some of this moss that grows on trees, and I thought, oh my God, it's gorgeous. It has this beautiful silver color. And I thought, okay, that's what it needs because there's a little bit of a color difference in the finial. It's got highlights to it. And I thought, oh, this will look beautiful with the finial. So actually, I think this is the water. It's cool that water comes out of it, but to me, the part I like is just the actual scenery itself. I mean, to me, it just really came to life when I started putting the greenery in there and then adding the rocks and then adding this to it just made a real big difference. And so I thought, okay, this just, kind of changes everything. and I thought it looks really, really cool. Way more lifelike. Originally, I had wanted to sink the fountain base a little lower, and I was going to put my, I think it's duckweed that's native here in Texas. I was going to put duckweed growing on top of the water. And because I did that when I did my Snow White terrarium. She's got a wishing well. Of course, she's doing her famous song at the wishing well. But in her wishing well, there is duckweed. So here you have it. Here is the final outcome. Sorry for the reflection on everything, but I'm loving it. I could not believe that the grass at the base, implanted in the ring around it, just comes up to the top of the base of the fountain. And I think that's just one of those things that just happens. So you can see it trickles down, and yeah, I'm loving how this turned out. The detail, I think, is incredible for such a small little build. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I did put two my Amazon screenshots for the light and the pump. Now this is the second pump I have used. When I did the waterfall terrarium, it was a different pump. Now both pumps are kind of quiet, but this one came with its own tubing, so that's why I did it. Hey, there's me, and that's my time out. So you guys have a great day. Bye.